It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. How you doing, Tim?
Good. I'm buying fireworks, getting ready for the 4th.
Oh, I thought you just had some leftover from Juneteenth. I didn't realize that. I don't know that. I mean this in all sincerity. I'm not sure white people were invited. I saw something that said, "This is totally a black holiday. We don't want you." And I respect something like that. It's like, I'm Jewish, and I liked it when the Pope said the Carmelite nuns couldn't build a convent at Auschwitz. That's our turf. And I just got a laugh out of an Auschwitz joke. Tim, you are the best. You're absolutely the best. Anyway,
if you think about it, though, on July 4th, we don't celebrate by going over all the injustices that the British inflicted on on the colonies. We don't talk about any of that.
Actually, we kind of look at it like we got away with something. We should still be subjects of the crown. That's the way I look at it. They let us go. Come on, that they had if they knew what kind of country this was going to turn into, they wouldn't have done the half-assed job they did sending Cornwallis over here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying is the holidays you're supposed to celebrate after what happened on that day. It's, on Passover, you celebrate leaving Egypt.
Sure. You leave it behind. Passover was the original MoveOn.org. And Tim, I don't want you to ever tell another Jewish story again, okay? Because this is the way this ethnic thing works now. You don't get to do that. I don't even what's the origin of Slagle anyway?
Wait. Charlton Heston wasn't Jewish.
Oh no. I thought didn't he say, "You're going to take my mezuzah from my cold dead hands"? I thought that's what he said.
I thought it was, "Get your filthy paws off me, you damn dirty ape."
That too. So, look, I don't think we have to worry too much about the future of this country now that it's in the good training wheels of Joe Biden. Let's take a look at this video of him. The great bicycle incident. And yeah. And we dwell on these things way too much. I mean, it can happen to anybody. It was probably a raised white crosswalk right there. I know some slip and fall attorneys who would be very happy to help him. And let's put this in perspective. You remember when Jimmy Carter got exhausted jogging? And he had just said that America was suffering from a malaise. Well, it turned out he was the one who was suffering from a malaise. And Ronald Reagan, according to Bill O'Reilly, remember when O'Reilly was running those killing books?
Sure.
He basically said that Reagan was a vegetable. I thought this was because the other day I happened on Jesse Waters, who finally has his own gig on Fox, and he was deriding Biden. And he was praising Reagan and how fit and hale Ronald Reagan was. And I was thinking, Jesse, the guy you used to work for, Bill O'Reilly, said that Reagan was a vegetable. So, I mean, we turn it whatever. But,
what it looks like to me that when the cameras weren't on, he's got at least one extra wheel on his bicycle.
There you go.
And because it looks like he just tried to step off of it.
Then I could believe he was kind of like Artie Johnson and laughing, riding around on his tricycle and falling down. And and instead of Ruth Buzzy, we have Jill Biden, Dr. Jill, beating him with her purse. But yeah, if this were the only thing, I'd say fine. But it's the totality of the circumstances with Biden. It's everything. It's the and now I think it's contagious because I'm getting it too. It's the gaps. It's the language that's gobbledygook. It's not making any sense at all. You look at the totality, and even the Democrats right now are basically sending not so hidden signals about jettisoning him. Am I right about this, or am I?
Yeah. The only thing that's preventing him from a 25th Amendment embarrassment is Kamala Harris.
That is your insurance policy, no question about it. And I just wonder. I mean, they're in a lot of trouble because she is the presumptive heir, and they're going to have to bypass her. And then who do you have there? I can't think of a single Democrat. I've even seen Pritzker's name floated, and just thinking of Pritzker and floating is kind of an incongruity.
The Democrats have a slimmer bench than the Detroit Lions.
Oh my goodness! All I can think of is George Plimpton actually qualifying to play for the Detroit Lions right now. Speaking of sports, so we're into this whole transgender mode right now, and somebody was mentioning. Do you remember? We're both old enough to remember this. Dr. Renee Richards, when she
Sure.
became he became a woman. Dr. Richards back then, accent aigu over the E. First E, and
he was. I remember it because he was the topic of many jokes that could not be made today.
Yeah, you couldn't. Can you? Do you remember one? That's not putting you on the spot.
No, I don't, because my mom usually changed the channel before the punchline was hit.
There we go. But the thing is that somebody was, I guess, trying to say that. See, somebody like him. You could have transgenders competing against women because they don't have any unnecessary competitive advantage, or necessarily have a competitive advantage. And Chris Everett, showing what a reactionary she was, said, "Hey, I had a tough time with Renee Richards, and the only reason she didn't beat me was because she was 43 years old at the time." Oh. And
it's okay to be ageist, huh?
Chrissy was in her prime then. So, yeah, but it's all going by the boards now, because didn't that International Swimming Federation this week decide that I want to say Leah Thompson. It's not Leah. I think it's Leanne Thompson. Her ilk would not qualify anymore. If you have changed sexes after the age of 12, you don't qualify anymore. So give back all those medals.
That's actually dangerous, because that's going to encourage parents to do the transition much earlier if they want to get their kids into sports.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, boy, that's really something. You got to be a zealous jock parent to say, no, we got to castrate him when he's 9. All right.
Otherwise, he's never going to be a cheerleader.
Yeah, he'll never be a female champion NCAA swimmer. The most touching video I saw this week in the wide world of sports was the Cubs' very own Willson Contreras. That's 2 L's in Wilson. I think like Meredith Willson, the creator of the Music Man. And he and his brother, so Willson Contreras is a catcher for the Cubs, and his brother is a catcher for the Braves. And they both brought out the lineup cards, and they hugged. And then when Contreras came up to home plate later, they hugged again. And to me, I don't know if you'd agree with me, Tim, on this. This was the most touching scene between 2 catchers since Michael Barrett of the Cubs cold-cocked A.J. Pierzynski at home plate in the Cubs-White Sox game. That was a moment. That was a moment.
Touching.
But this was close. This was close to it. So
they're both just happy. Look, do you see their faces? You know how happy they are. You think, oh, it's so great that because they're brothers. No, it's because we got out of Venezuela.
I mean, it's got to be a rare thing. I can't remember any other. Are there any other brother combinations that are catchers? There are very few. There are very few catchers. I don't want to test you on this because I know your knowledge of baseball is.
You've already heard it.
Yeah, you've already heard my
full extent.
But I know that you love food. And so Noah Rothman, among the people from Commentary Magazine that I regularly plagiarize from, he has written a new book, and I forget what it's called exactly, but it's about the new Puritanism. And it dwells on how picky we are about food nowadays, and specifically that you can't appropriate food that's outside of your ethnic jurisdiction. And what happened is that this guy who created some restaurant called Fat Rice in California, and I guess it's like Chinese Macau type of cuisine, actually had to shut down his restaurant because he wasn't the right ethnicity. And a guy like Rick Bayless, who does Mexican food and is related to Skip Bayless and has been in Chicago, has taken some heat too. I didn't think it had gotten this far that you can't make food that's outside of your ethnic jurisdiction.
That's crazy. If you can't make food outside your ethnic jurisdiction, every single restaurant in Chicago would be a Mexican place.
I mean, and how about we extend it to that you're not allowed to eat food outside of your, unless you get a passport. And maybe we could do some barter, trade food. Like, I still don't know what you are, Tim. What is your ethnic derivation? I'll trade you some kishkas and some matzo balls for whatever it is. What part of
I was raised
did you say
German.
you
I
were
was
from?
raised German and Irish, but I'm a full-blood Polak.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so some punchkis on what is that on Ash Wednesday? I can't remember when's Punchki Day.
That's Ash Wednesday. That's the day before.
I got
the day
that
before,
right.
or Tuesday before, Fat Tuesday.
Oh, it is Fat Tuesday. Okay, so I came close enough. All right, now that we,
every cuisine, every single food came from somewhere else. We cook spaghetti and meatballs here in America, which is a version of the Italian pasta, which is a version of the Chinese noodles. I mean, that's the way cuisine happens.
And we Americanize everything
and make it better.
We make it better, or whatever we do. We add a lot of butter.
You can't get pizza in Italy.
Actually, the worst people are the Koreans who own these Japanese restaurants and purport to be Japanese, and they feast on the fact that we can't tell the difference with their Koreans. Actually, we'll do that. All right, coming up, we'll talk about the guy we love to kick, Joe Biden, Bruce Wolf, and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
Time. My dear mother used to have an expression: if anything lousy, something good will happen if you look hard enough for it. We have a chance here to make a fundamental turn toward renewable energy, electric vehicles, and not just electric vehicles, but across the board. And that's something we should be. My team is going to be sitting down with the CEOs of the major oil companies this week and try to get an explanation how they justify making $35 billion. First quarter.
Are you planning to sit down with oil and gas CEOs,
No.
Mr. President? Why is that, sir?
Because my team's going to do that.
Okay. But you did that with retailers and logistics companies and consumer companies.
Because I have it already done.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And but I'll tell you, whenever Biden says anything, Tim, I question the authenticity of the story. I know that he had a mother. I'm not sure that she ever said that to him. And it's always good to wish hardship on other people. I mean, I thought that if Mr. President is a good faith gesture, how's about you start taking a Conestoga wagon everywhere? This is the guy that commandeered that Acela train all the time. I mean, everybody else had to wait for him. And what's the point of being a politician if you can't?
Yeah, he was in
first cash.
He was in first class too, and that's like I heard that's like $200 a trip.
Yeah, no,
that wasn't sticking your fare card into the turnstile. There.
No,
that was
it's ridiculous. And then, he asks the oil companies to stop taking these obscene profits. Well, I mean, nobody. If oil companies are making so much money, how come everybody doesn't invest in them instead of cryptocurrency? It's not that easy. It always looks easier than it actually is. And I wouldn't even mind it if Biden said, look, during this national crisis, I don't want them to take profits, period. Okay. Forget obscene, because they're not obscene profits. And certainly the mom and pop gas stations, which get a couple of cents on the gallon, is that, do they even get that?
No, they don't. They actually give the gas away for free to get you into the store to buy the hot dogs.
It's all the sushi. They make it all on sushi, just like the rock group Styx makes it on T-shirts at the concerts. Yeah, no, I get it. And didn't the movie theaters always? Didn't it come down to popcorn for the movie theaters?
That's it. They're popcorn. They're popcorn stands.
Yeah,
they're popcorn stands with entertainment.
I know funeral parlors are basically just real estate. They don't make any. So that's a real estate business. Meanwhile, did you see that those forward-looking countries like Austria and Germany have said, fire up the coal furnaces again. I love that. So
yeah, that's okay. Screw it. We're not doing anything. It's hot out.
no, I mean it's going to be ridiculous, and you and I know what it's like. At least I do. What it's like not to have air conditioning when you're a kid.
Oh,
do you
sure.
remember that?
Yeah, no.
My parents got a Fetters air conditioner when I was about 9, I think, and my sister and I used to try to find excuses to go into their bedroom.
Yeah, that's where my parents had theirs too. Was in the
It's
bedroom.
interesting. The parents, I understand it. It's like when you're on an airplane and the oxygen masks come down. The parents have to get it first, but eventually they do give it to you. I mean, with me, they had it and they were freezing in their room, and we were so hot. But I know what it's like. My sister and I once had to sit in the back seat with this rather portly young girl all the way back from Lake Okoboji, Iowa. My father was in the insurance business for a very short time, and it was at a seminar there, and we went as a family, and we had to drive all the way back from Iowa. And you know how dogs just put their faces outside the window and let their tongues hang? I mean, that's what we were doing.
Were you in the way back? The part of the station wagon called the way back?
I wish it had been a station wagon. It was, and so we take all this for granted. And I don't think America could live for one moment without air conditioning. And now we're way too spoiled.
When we were kids, air conditioning in a car was a luxury. It was it was something only the rich people had. And now I don't think you can buy a car without air conditioning.
Oh no, look, hey, in my day, I mean, I remember when I got married, we actually had a car without power steering. I mean, you really built up the pecs and the triceps trying to turn, and it was a little car too, but it was impossible. The kids nowadays. Speaking of children,
and to have to do this to get the window to come up.
And all that. And then you had to go outside.
No wonder we're fat. We don't have to do any of that
right.
anymore.
You had to go outside and crank the whole thing up, and then push from behind to give it a running start. And then shoe the horses. It wasn't very easy. But speaking of kids nowadays and how spoiled they are, kids, what's the matter with kids today? Pardon my Paul Lind. Here's I guess this is in the Atlantic. I'm not sure exactly where it was. There's this article where, a world without children. And somebody here says, I've heard a number of young people say they won't have children because of the climate crisis. But here's the thing. Ask any older person when the happiest time in their life was, and they will always say it was when their children were young. I don't know that that's true, but I do love it when you can turn your maybe cowardice or reluctance into virtue signaling. Oh, we don't want to have children because we're going to hurt the climate. And
no, it's we don't want to have children because we won't be able to close the bars anymore. We're going to have to decide between shoes for the kids or cable.
Well, right. Kids are tough. That's why you don't want to have kids. And I could understand that. But, when you're trying to make it sound like you're doing something lofty and virtuous, and then they say, the large families, which I have, take a bigger carbon footprint. But that is not necessarily true because, for example, if you don't have kids, you can afford to fly around all over the place, and you're establishing quite a carbon footprint. So
I think leftism has given a lot of opportunity to do non-virtuous things virtual.
It's
like, I would hold the door for you, honey, but I don't want to subjugate you to the patriarch. I would buy a diamond.
I remember being on a bus. I'm sorry. I remember being on a bus and having to debate whether to give up my seat to a pregnant woman. And part of me was thinking, hey, you want to be in the workforce? Hey, you want to do it all? I'm sorry. Did I have to stick my foot out and let her trip over it? No, that was going a little too far. So, there's a fine line there. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. Diamond rings, fur coats, all these things that women used to expect from men. If you're on the left, it's like I can't do that to the planet.
The fur coat, which I think my wife wore once, You get your wife in a certain generation. You get your wife a fur coat, and she wears it the one time.
Well,
Now
maybe that has to do with the places you're taking her, Bruce.
No, I think and you put on David Rose's The Stripper music. You know what I'm saying? She puts on the fur coat.
Oh, she wore it that time.
You got some Najima
the thank
on your
you
face,
wearing.
and you're taking it off, taking it all off. You get one time. But anyway, yeah, thank you for your virtue signaling, Generation ZZ. Meantime, another Biden quote. He apparently said that anybody who says that massive spending caused inflation is engaging in some bizarre theory. No, actually, that's what happened.
It's called economics.
Yeah, that's what happened. That thing called what is it called? Modern monetary theory, which is essentially just print money. You don't have to come with some crazy lofty name. It's print money. It doesn't work. You've got people like Lawrence Summers, no conservative, who's an economist, who said no, we spent too much. Joe Manchin actually saved you. It could have been a lot worse.
We were a little too modern. We were
way too modern.
Thoroughly modern.
Yeah. So let us pivot right here to the gun bill. And the Supreme Court just came down with a decision that bolstered the Second Amendment. Apparently, New York had a law that you had to show why you needed a gun if you wanted to get one and carry it, concealed a gun in public. And it was some bureaucrat who was going to decide this. And the court, Justice Thomas opining for the 6-3 majority, saying, no, constitutional rights don't work that way. They don't work at the sufferance of the bureaucrats. And even Illinois, apparently, a number of years ago, the Illinois Supreme Court, in its infinite wisdom, said that you couldn't have a law like this. So Illinois was not even as blue as New York, but now.
Well,
New
from
York
what I
isn't quite as
understand, the
blue.
law in New York said that you had to articulate your need for a handgun.
I don't. You know what?
And I can see why that would be unconstitutional, because New Yorkers are all inarticulate.
With them these, there's, and those, and thumbs, and Brooklyn accents. And, I totally understand that now. It's making a lot of sense. It's crazy. And meantime, there's that legislation that is now pending before Congress, the Senate approving it with the help of some Republican senators. Let me just straighten this out right here. And there's a lot of different aspects to this legislation. One of them is they're trying to close the dating loophole. Did you see that on this gun legislation? That if you've been threatened by your boyfriend, but he's not just a casual relationship, then you don't qualify for being able to get a gun. Oh yeah, you got to look at the innards of this bill. So I was thinking that young Brett Kavanaugh, assuming that he had dry humped that woman, and that's a great assumption because I don't think it actually happened, but he could still get a gun because it wasn't in a long-term relationship. So that's how that. I still
so it has to be. So it's the third base law.
There you go. I love that's the shorthand that's going to make it palatable to the public so that we understand that. All right, Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
It is definitely the treasure of the city.
On the longest day of the year with the hottest temperatures in years, the iconic Chicagoland lakefront still without enough lifeguards.
There has to be some other incentives by the city of Chicago, city of Evanston.
Lifeguard seats left empty, yet another unintended consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic.
There's a shortage overall of people working, so it's not just on the lakefront.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Tim, did you notice the sign there? It said beaches officially. I thought they were looking for a fecal and officially thing, hybrid. But there's a shortage of eyes for letters as well as of people. You know, earlier you were talking about how Biden's gas tax holiday was going to mean something to lifeguards. And I thought of this story. that there are no lifeguards. So,
well, yeah, but I
when
think that's what he was saying. Of course, there's no lifeguards. They have to pay 18 cents a gallon for the federal tax and gas.
There we go. And I just thought that it was interesting. We talked in the last segment about people not having any children anymore. When I looked at this story initially and I saw that the beaches were going to be closed, I thought, oh, here we go, another erosion, global warming, pollution story. No, it's just that there aren't people in order to do this. And
what's wrong with what kid does not want to be a lifeguard anymore? I mean, that used to be a pretty sweet job. You get a nice tan.
Maybe all the kids are too fat. It's the type 2 diabetes. If you're carrying an extra a spare tire there, instead of being able to throw a tire out to somebody who's drowning, it's a little bit difficult. Yeah, there's something wrong. There's something very, very wrong.
And what I found amusing is that they say that anybody who tries to go swimming will be turned away. Well, who's going to turn them away? Hey, I tell you what, officer, why don't you strip down, get your butt up in that chair, and rather than throwing people out, let them, you be the lifeguard.
I mean, and all the dead alewives washing up upon shore are lonely. There's nobody there. It's really, really sad. Although we never went to Evanston Beach. We were, I didn't even know that, maybe it was exclusive back then. We would go to Morse Avenue, maybe Loyola. Was there a beach there? But were you a beach guy at all?
We went to Lake Erie. That was close. That was the closest lake for us.
I thought Lake Erie was constantly on fire.
No. No, that was just the Cleveland River.
I see.
And then we go up to Lake Huron sometimes, and for summer vacation, we'd get a cottage on Lake Huron.
Oh, how nice! How very, very nice. And here I thought you were part of the hoi polloi, but you actually had a cottage up north.
No, we didn't have a cottage. We rented one for a week.
Oh, okay, all right. So speaking of rich guys like yourself, Ken Griffin has decided he's pulling up stakes. The billionaire, the guy who. And people were saying, well, because he's failed, and apparently the campaign to get Richard Irvin elected governor is failing. But he succeeded with the anti-tax initiative. He beat Pritzker on that one. But now he's moving to Miami. I guess he's personally moved, but he's moving the whole hedge fund down to Miami. I say this is the time to buy in Illinois. Buy now. It can't get any lower, can it? I mean, Ken Griffin's leaving.
I don't know. I grew up in Detroit, so yeah.
I guess it
can go a little lower.
It can get a little lower.
I think the fact that Irvin's dropping down in the polls, I think that's why he's leaving. It's like oh crap, I'm in trouble now. I mean that was his safeguard.
I thought I pretty much thought it was a safeguard for Illinois, because I thought it was an electable Republican, but everybody's a little bit drunk or has, had the Kool-Aid for Bailey. And who knows, in a wave election year, maybe he upsets Pritzker, but boy, you don't think that's going to happen, do you?
No, I think Pritzker's actually funding Bailey's
and
campaign.
There's no question to the tune of like $40 million.
Yeah.
They're funding Bailey and,
yeah, here's a little hint for any Republicans that are watching that don't let Democrats pick your candidates.
It's the old Claire McCaskill playbook. What she did with what is it, Aiken? Was that his name? No, but I mean, there's guys like Dan Proft is a smart guy. Worked with him on WLS, and I think he's like one of the guys who's supporting Bailey. And for all I know, it's. I don't know. I haven't talked to him. It's a single issue of abortion, whatever. We
can't get Dan Proft on here and ask him. We used to get guests on this show.
He wouldn't deign to come on this show. I just don't understand, though. I don't think it's a winner any more than Jeannie Ives was a winner a few years ago. This is really difficult. So you take what you can get. But meantime, they're nickel and diming Irvin. It's one conflict of interest story after another. It reminds me a little bit of how the Republicans had to get rid of Jack Ryan because he had sex with his own wife. I mean, that's what it came down to, right?
Yeah, if you know who Jerry Ryan is, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame him for wanting to take her to sex clubs, because let me tell you, if I ever had sex with Jerry Ryan, I'd want witnesses.
Okay.
Because no one would ever believe me otherwise.
I remember interviewing Jack Ryan at the Cubs opener. He was still in the race at that time. You couldn't have asked for a better candidate than Jack Ryan. He looked the part. He had the name Jack Ryan. I mean, that's like Jack Reacher. It's apparently reached around a little too much. And he gets, and it's the Republicans. And I got to give David Axelrod credit, because he knows how to get Republicans to put their heads right in the noose. And that's what he did. I mean, he did it. He got Barack Obama elected by, first of all, getting rid of Blair Hall, because they unsealed his divorce records. Okay, that's a reason to get rid of him. And he gets rid of Jack Ryan because of this. And that paves the way. Dirty tricks, dirty politics paves the way for Barack Obama. It was beautiful.
In Illinois, you never would have thought.
Who would have thunk it? But this is what's going to happen. I mean, Irvin is, he's inconsistent on a lot of things, but he might move the ball forward a little bit, or not let Pritzker move it. But
move the ball backward.
No such luck. Meantime, in the wonderful backward city of Chicago, here's a tweet from Joni Lum of Channel 32. There's a shooting at State and Grand, and a 26-year-old man was approached, struggled with an offender trying to rob him, was shot in the wrist. Police say at least 9 armed robberies have been tied to a group riding around in a white Nissan Rogue with Florida plates. Well, it's not Ken Griffin, I can tell you that much. But I'm wondering, really, I don't need to hear the murder du jour. What I need as a consumer of television news is to know what's the latest you can be downtown on any given day. And I just put that in with the weather forecast. You can't do it overtly, of course, but I would just say it's going to be partly cloudy around 7 at State and Grand, and storms developing, wink, wink, if you know what I mean, by 10. Something like that. So the weather could be useful, because everybody's got a weather app now on the phone. You don't need TV news for the weather, or traffic for that matter, but you could use it maybe a little bit to know if you should skedaddle out of downtown.
Possible heat-related storms resulting in bullets the size of hailstones.
Exactly. You know what? I
Raining
think
down on the beach.
Over the head with it a little bit. You're a little heavy-handed with the metaphors, but not bad. Let's workshop this. It sounds really good. All right, so now that we've taken care of the television news business,
you know, that is kind of like, too, it's like everybody I know who back before we had smartphones and people had the Garmins. I heard more than once is that you could avoid tolls, you could avoid expressways. They had no setting to avoid ghetto.
Who among us has not accidentally wandered to trying to take a shortcut? Oh, I'm going to take a shortcut. I think I'll get off what is it, 80 or whatever in
Chinatown,
Indiana,
that's it.
and I'll take State Street all the way north. Oh yeah, that's it's a little bit like actually, and that was part of Chevy Chase in National Lampoon's Vacation. They wind up in the wrong part of. They wind up in East St. Louis, and you could never show that movie now. They had guys taking his hubcaps off, and never be done now. So, what is with the Biden administration's war against nicotine, which of course is ridiculous, because they also have the war against vaping, and these are people who want to don't want to get lung cancer. So they'll.
It's a war against menthol. He wants to ban menthol cigarettes,
which is totally discriminatory against a certain ethnic group.
Is it? Why?
I don't know. I have no idea. I was strictly a Chesterfield man, or Benson and Hedges 100. Actually, I was a Virginia Slims, because I've come a long way, baby, to get where I got to today. No, so what's with eliminating nicotine, Mr. President?
That's great. It's meanwhile, states all over the country, one by one, are legalizing cannabis. and the federal government
Right.
has nothing to do with it. But yet they think they're going to be able to ban nicotine. I mean, come on. And the problem is too, is what he's going to do. He's going to lower the amount of nicotine that can be in a cigarette. Well, is that really going to get people to cut down on their smoking? The lightest cigarette you can get is a Camel non-filter because it's pure nicotine. Is that people are going to just smoke more? It's like I had a friend that gave up drinking and he drank O'Doul's, and I saw him down a case of it trying to get a buzz one night.
I just think vaping is the thing, the halfway house to quitting smoking, and if they're not going to encourage that, then they're just awful people. All right, coming up in the final segment here, we're going to talk about Stephen Colbert actually had his own January 6th moment, but it was all in good and fun, and that's what matters. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
7 unauthorized people were detained inside a congressional office building and charged with unlawful entry Thursday night. CBS News confirms that team was part of a production crew for The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Capitol Police say the group was unescorted and without congressional ID. They also say they had been told to leave earlier in the day. According to a statement from CBS, their interviews at the Capitol were authorized and prearranged through congressional aides of the members interviewed. After leaving the members' offices on their last interview of the day, the production team stayed to film stand-ups and other final comedy elements in the hall when they were detained by Capitol Police.
Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Well, Tim, it's good to see Nancy Pelosi's Capitol Police doing something, right?
I love this comedy exemption. It's like, oh no, we're immune because we were just doing comedy. Well, you know what? That guy with the horns,
the Viking helmet. See, that was genuine comedy. This is forced. I mean, it's scripted. You know what they were doing. That guy, and he paid the price too, because that guy pleaded guilty. He said, I really wasn't trying to create a revolution. I'm not justified. He paid the price for comedy.
So did the guy carrying the podium waving to all the cameras. I mean, tell me that wasn't comedy, okay? That was one of the funniest things I saw from that.
To me, the real funny guys were the guys that I grew up with in high school, who then later became serious businessmen, but who knew how to throw a quarter at the blackboard so that the teacher would move to one side of the room and then throw a cracker ball to the other blackboard, and the teacher going, I see the strategy. Those are the real comedians, not people like me who decided, I'm going to craft something clever and with parodies and stuff like that. And look, I know Rob Smigel, the Triumph the Wonder Dog guy. I did a bit with him. He came to Chicago eons ago. He's the creator of the Superfans sketch. It's a neologism there, sketch. And we did one together on TV. And then later on, I did something at a club on the near North Side with him. I mean, he's a real funny guy. But what are they doing? Why are they staying afterwards?
They're harassing Republicans. That's what they were doing. They were banging on the doors.
They were doing.
They were banging on the doors, and they wanted one to come out and goes, "Oh, nice legislation for me to poop on."
Yeah, right. Latter-day Borats. So it's even derivative that way. So speaking of January 6th, are you impressed whatsoever with anything that Ms. Cheney came up with?
Oh, is that still going on?
I don't know what it is.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay. Enough said about that.
Is football season back yet?
Pretty soon. I did have to take issue with Rudy having that woman, Ms. Freeman, I guess it was, having to leave her home and the FBI not being able to guarantee her safety because he claimed that she was passing a thumb drive full of information, I guess, over to somebody, but it turned out to be a mint. So, I mean, none of these claims withstood scrutiny.
You know what, though? I mean, that is a perfect example of how this hearing is so unfair, because that wasn't the reason why people got so upset at Ruby and her daughter, or is it Ruby and her mom? I don't know which one.
Freeman?
Yeah.
Why were they upset?
Well, because they told everyone they had to leave because there was a water main break. And as soon as everybody left, they started pulling ballots out from under a table and started running them through the counting machine. That's why people got so upset.
And nobody's ever talked about that. Nobody's ever asked them about that either.
I'm not saying that they were doing anything illegal, but I mean,
okay.
Well, outside the fact that they told everyone the counting was over, cleared the room, and then went back to counting. Okay.
Right. Look, there's lots of cosmetic things. There's even things worse than that that I think are serious, like the Pennsylvania legislature authorizing no excuse absentee voting, things like that.
You got
prior
Michigan
to,
saying,
Michigan
saying we're not going to check the signatures on the mail-in ballots.
In the end, they weren't able to find any actual fraud, but we've gone over or very little. And we've gone over it again and again and again. My view is that, our side is a little crazy for wanting so much security, and the other side is crazy for wanting, believing that it's Jim Crow 2.0 because that's what they say. Can't bring water to somebody.
They say there's no proven election fraud, so I don't know why you want these restrictions. It's like, do you need to be broken into before you start locking your door?
Well, and look, I mean, they had record turnout for Georgia this time, despite the major leagues having to move the All-Star game to Denver. It's a little bit silly. There's been a couple of Supreme Court decisions recently. We talked about the one earlier about the gun law in New York. There was one that will definitely, if you believe in slippery slopes, be the beginning of the theocracy of in the United States, because the schools now are Catholic schools, private schools, sectarian schools are allowed to get state vouchers, and this is the end of the end of the world. According to the liberals, it is the establishment of a religion, except of course it really isn't. And what's wrong? I'll tell you, they are already teaching religion in the schools, teaching the religion of transgenderism. Why can't you just have diversity here and allow people to teach something else as well? So,
well, the thing is, Harvard and Georgetown, those are both religious institutions, aren't they, or originally were? I know Georgetown is Catholic. I thought Harvard had some sort of Protestant.
I know Yale was founded by a slave trader, and they haven't changed the name of the school. So what's the matter with them?
But I think you're saying it's the beginning of theocracy. I think it's the end of the monopoly. I mean, that's. I mean, why do we just put all our kids in one company's school? It makes no sense.
Well, I mean, you have no problem with Trump at all. I have a lot of problems with his personality, and it's very difficult. But this is the dividend of Trump. It's Amy Coney Barrett. It's Brett Kavanaugh. It's Neil Gorsuch. It's the 6-3 majorities. It's what Mitch McConnell and I are, I guess, basically the same. And I hate to admit it. But this is the dividend, getting these decisions, and we still haven't gotten the biggie. Don't they do it all in June? Aren't all the big decisions in June?
They're saving the big one. They're going to make
saving the big one for next week?
They're going to make sure they're all in their summer homes before they.
I don't know if summer homes are going to be close enough or far enough away. I'm really concerned about that. Speaking of abortion, the ACLU recently tweeted that abortion bans disproportionately harm Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, the LGBTQ community, immigrants, young people, those working to make ends meet, people with disabilities. It's the catch-all. And if you actually drill down on this, first of all, how do abortion bans hurt LGBTQ?
Yeah, that's what I have a problem with that too.
I mean.
Well, I guess if men can get pregnant, so can homosexuals, huh?
I guess so. And of course, when you're saying you're harming Black people, wasn't it Ruth Bader Ginsburg who confessed that the reason we tried to make abortion proliferate was so that we get less of those people. But that apparently hurts them if there are more of them. So
well, it's
math
one of
is
the
hard for me.
It's one of the excuses you always hear is that well, Republicans don't care about the baby after they're born. It's like, oh,
Right.
okay, so better to kill it so it won't go on welfare. Is that
Right.
what-
Well, that's.
And here's the thing. If it does affect that community, does Pete Buttigieg and his husband, I mean, can they still abort? Is that too late of a term?
I still have that image of them with that. What do they have, like this breastplate that they put on and make them look like they're female? Did want to turn to one quick sports thing. We talked about it a little bit last week. Apparently, the Arabs are taking over golf, and not GULF, but golf, GOLF, and
the Persian Gulf.
Yeah, right. They may as well call it that. I mean, I said that pretty soon the Ryder Cup will turn into the Riyadh Cup, and I'm thinking if they should even change all the nomenclature, change a bogey to a Khashoggi. Okay, I'll wait for the laugh on that one. And somebody suggested that we have the Mulligan, MULLAH. So I like that. There's Nick Faldo, the color commentator for CBS for these many 16 years, is suddenly retiring, and there's suspicion that he isn't really retiring, that he too is getting paid off.
Uh-oh.
And will become like the big announcer for this new LIV, I guess it's called. And if they get enough golfers, they're going to really give the PGA a run for its lack of money.
I could see the Middle East really getting into golf. Unfortunately, all the clubs will be sand wedges.
Shouldn't we? But I'm thinking people like Phil Mickelson should use the leverage. They're selling out cheap for like $200 million. They should go there and have them open up the oil spigots. It's bad enough when the president of the United States has to get on his hands and knees and beg the Sultan or whoever it is, the prince, in order to get some oil. I'm thinking we got that leverage. They want our golf. We want their oil, and hold out. And
we'll swap you hole for hole.
And I'd even be willing to let them buy Augusta National and turn the tournament into our Masters, the Arabs, the golf tournament. It's our Masters, not the Masters. You are our Masters. I'm willing to sell out.
The infidel.
And on that note, Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle will be owned by the Arabs next week on the weekly wrap.
The A-Rap.